From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon of Afternoons LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus checkup of 2020 new. Breaking brand new news today as the House has passed the Build Back Better Act and sent it to the Senate. But the House has also passed CR for Stimulus 2.0 and sent to the Senate. And now indications suggest that the Senate and House is negotiating for a CR that would have $1.5 trillion of, quote, discretionary spending in there to be added into the continuing resolution. You heard me right, and this is not just for lobster shorts. I have all the incredible great news as they now have a lot of money proposed in the CR. Boy, that is CR for Stimulus 1.0, but 2.0 passed in the House, sending to the Senate that could be merged with the Senate version. It's 3.0. And the 4.0 version is the one about Russia. And guess what? Russia ain't going away. Also not going away is your third stimulus. Viewers are getting more money from third stimulus, and I'm going to show you two viewers who got $20,000 this week. My goodness. And one viewer has gotten upwards of $80,000 this week. Wow. You want these checks? See the very end. I have a lot of money in today's recording. Then we'll be going over to the opportunity of Joseph Biden to give you SS200, and not just 5.9%, not just 7.5%, but likely 11% increase from the year before. What's going on? It's only on Afternoons LA. Then we'll go over the opportunity to repurpose some sums of money. Boy, you've never seen a recording like this, because I've never had a recording like this. This is incredible, exciting news, as now we have several pieces of legislation all heating up. The opportunity to get big sums of money. Everything is going great until one thing happens. Mitch walks in wearing those lobster shorts. Oh, goodness. We were going so well until that moment happened. But other than that, just close your eyes and look away. And just imagine you can unsee of the lobster shorts. And we're going to see now the opportunity of the big money. And it starts right here, right now, as Afternoons LA gets underway, direct from Santa Monica. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. The recon has passed the House. It has been sent to the Senate, but also sent to the Senate is a CR for Stimulus 2.0 that the Republicans on the House, on the Senate side, said they're going to merge across the board. Wow, this is incredible great news. But also incredible great news is the breaking news today. The continuing resolution will have $1.5 trillion of, quote, discretionary spending included, so says current negotiations. My goodness. This is on top of the big money in the Build Back Better Act that pays you at least $15,000, but upwards of $60,000. We're going to go over the big money you can get still from third stimulus. We have a lot of money in this recording. Plus, did you ever imagine your benefits if you're on SSI and SSDI could go from the year 2021 to up to 11% more by the end of this year? Can you imagine your benefits going up 11 to 12% in 1 year? Yeah, it's incredible great news. I'm going to have it for you later in this video. It's what Joseph Biden can do. But first, I need your help. Go under this video and subscribe. You're watching the number 3 most watched financial news channel in America. I need your help to bring us to number 2. You look beautiful. You look great. I'm just excited you're tuning in today. And I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. We have a lot of money in this video, folks. So stay with me to the very end. We're going to go over all these incredible checks. But we're going to start first with the Build Back Better Act. That's the fourth stimulus recon. That's the one that passed in the House back in November, now in the Senate. And that's the one that has lots of checks. It's both economic reform and social reform. Let's go over all those incredible sums of checks with 3 clusters and 3 add-ons that add up to how much? Well, at least $15,000 to $60,000 of checks, and include all the checks that Joseph Biden says In his brand new comments from Andrew Yates, his spokesperson, he wants to go out right now. The President of the United States wants his money to go out right now. It includes adult checks. It includes automatic checks. So does the senators, and he is ready to send the money out right now. Let's look at it right this moment. It involves first cluster number one. Hazard pay. That was in a third stimulus. They want to do it one more time under fourth stimulus. This is for my essential workers that earn income tax credit. Learn about it at irs.gov. The $4,000 of elder care would be brand new. The $4,000 of care for young children would also be brand new. But the CTC, the child tax credit, would be expanded one more year under fourth stimulus. So that's about $3,600 across the board. People have been asking me why the word adult stimulus checks automatic, because the children get their checks through the child tax credit. And I love my viewers. There's always a viewer that jumps in the live chat, explains it to someone else. The children get their checks through the CTC, but your checks as adults, people that act mature, other than, people that don't wear lobster shorts, people that, don't rub bacon all over their body, those people that act mature otherwise, they get the adult check across the board. Also in this first cluster is the home repairs if you live in a low-income community, the $12,500 for the purchase of a new electric vehicle, and the $500 for the CTC recipients, for the people, $550 check for the Pell Grant recipients. Wow, that's huge. Now, when we turn to the first of three clusters of three add-ons, it comes from here in Southern California. Maxine Waters got it in there, and it's $25,000, just a little bit less, for the purchase of your first home. Wow. This is money given from the federal government to the seller in your name at the time of escrow for the purchase of your first home. That is the first add-on. Ready for the second cluster? I bet you are. It is home repairs. This is to weatherize your home. And then paid leave. Paid leave is a lot of money, folks. But what is it? It's if you have to stay home due to sickness or illness across the board. And it's a lot of money. How much money do you get? You get approximately $1,700 a week if you make $70,000 or more per year. $800 a week if you make $35,000 or more per year. $400 a week if you make $15,000 or more per year. How many weeks? 4 to 6 weeks per year. So that's about $6,000 on the high end. And it's all of you, W-2, 1099, you all qualify. Moreover, it's for the household. So if you don't work, but your son or daughter does work and has to take off from work once a week to take you to the doctor's office, they'll get the check for the household. There you go. That is incredible paid leave, which tees us up for the second add-on. It comes from the incredible Bob Casey, and you know what he got in there. Jump in the live chat if you remember the number. It starts with a number 2. This is for free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. There it goes. I saw people posting it. $250 billion, just a little bit less, for free home health care. Can you imagine you're a senior on Medicare or you're an individual on disabilities and you don't get free home health care? That's why Joe Biden made this a campaign promise. Thank goodness. This is one of the most important provisions across the board. They got it in there in the second add-on. Let's now turn to the third cluster, which is where we find deliciousness, spelled D-A-H-L-I-S-U-N-A-S-S. Remember, deliciousness has an H in there. Free internet. They got in that third cluster, they got in there the money for the farmers, the money for the independent contractors. Then the nutrition is $65 a month if you're out of school. And then the seniors, they got 2 checks on the House, more on the Senate. On the House side, they got the Medicaid gap fix, more about that in a second, and also the hearing aid check. On the Senate side, they vowed to add 3 other checks: dental, vision, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 to 55. And boy, that's why we talk about the Senate, because guess what else the Senate wants to add in there? Yeah, the Senate wants to add in there something else that starts with the letter M. And if you're in the live chat right now, write those 3 letters that start with the letter M, because I bet you know what they are. There you go. I saw someone write it. It's MSC. Adult automatic stimulus checks. And boy, are they incredible. Let's go over what they are starting right now, who gets it, how much, and what's at hand. First, these are checks that are sent out from IRS for adults, automatic, on a monthly basis. The M stands for monthly. It can also stand for multiple. But remember, the RECON, the Build Back Better Act, has multiple checks in there. So the way that we differentiate this one is it comes out from IRS. You're going to get the multiple checks from the Build Back Better on top of that, which is about $60,000 plus this MSC. Okay, so who gets it? You get it. Adults get it. Children, young little babies don't get it because you get the CTC. So let's go over the calculation. First, let's go over the eligibility, actually. Who gets it? Everyone who got a third stimulus check that the senators represent would get the MSC. They tell tens of thousands of viewers of this channel that it's going in there on the Senate side. That's their representation. And if you forgot who got a third stimulus check, let's recap. Single individual, 75,000 or less annual income, you get it. Married couple, 150,000 or less, you get it, but it's doubled because there's two of you. Family of four, you get it because you quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, rail benefits, you get as well. It's not taxable because it ain't income. It's offered on a nationwide basis. Don't worry if you don't like your governor. And it goes off the most recent tax return. So if that tax return had a direct deposit account on that, that's how you get paid, otherwise in the mail. And that, my friends, is MSC. But the question is then, wait a second, how much? Left the best part for last. $2,000 the first month. Yeah, Joe Biden wants these checks to go out right away. He wants everything out the Build Back Better Act to go out right away. And guess what? Republicans want checks to go out for themselves to you as well. It's a new element of bipartisanship to win the midterm elections. It's coming up in just a second. And there's lots of checks you can get today. Tens of thousands of dollars. Would you like to end the day with tens of thousands of dollars in your hand? Well, stay to the very end. I'm going to show you its third stimulus. But this is $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. That is MSE. How do they get it in there? Well, they get it in there in the Senate side. The senators need to do a couple things. And the first thing they need to do is take the Build Back Better Act, send it to the Senate subcommittees, and start to add provisions across the board. And they said they're going to do it because guess what? They have their stuff to add as well. Then they have a Senate bill. Then they vote it for on the Senate floor vote. And then they key it up for a 2-day vote-a-rama. And then we're done. But is there a way to get a check to the American people faster than a Senate reconciliation budget bill? Yeah, it's called a continuing resolution. A continuing resolution. The breaking news today is that the negotiations on your current CR, which is CR for stimulus, which is CR for stimulus 1.0, shows $1.5 trillion of discretionary spending at issue. Oh boy, that's coming up in just a second. But first, let me go over what's going on. Well, there is now not one, but 4 opportunities to insert a stimulus check in another piece of legislation that would get done potentially faster than the Build Back Better Act and send it out to you faster and would not negate the Build Back Better Act, but still get you money on top of it. And the opportunity is called a CR for stimulus. Let's go over what this is by taking it back to 2020. It was a creation of me, a creation of myself, and advocated by the viewership of this channel. It started in 2020. What was happening? Well, we had started the pandemic. We had got a first stimulus. We had used it up and we needed more money. It was the spring of 2020. So we were told a second stimulus package was in the works, spring of 2020. And negotiations were unraveling between Nancy Pelosi out of San Francisco, Speaker of the House for the Democrats, and Steve Mnuchin on behalf of the Republicans out of New York, the Treasury Secretary at the time. Spring, no deal. Summer, no deal. Fall, no deal. Winter, no deal. And so by December, I said, this ain't working. We've been doing this 11 months and there's no deal. Why did I see a problem here and what I look for as a solution? I was trying to look for the following elements as a solution. 1, I wanted a bill, not a package. This was 3,000 pages in length. I wanted a bill, a couple hundred pages in length. Second, I wanted something that was bipartisan support. This one didn't have bipartisan support. It's 11 months of negotiations, no deal. Number 3, I wanted something that had an inherent deadline. Because as week went by with Nancy and Steve, 11 months of it, it didn't look like they had an inherent rush to get it done. So I wanted something that had an inherent deadline, and then I found it. A continuing resolution. What is a continuing resolution? A continuing resolution has a lot of different names, a lot of different purposes, but it generally is a bill done once every 3 to 6 months to fund the federal government. The reason it works is because in the context of what I was talking about was bipartisan. It's done by bipartisan support. It has an inherent deadline. They may roll it over a few days, a week, maybe a month, but not several months because they don't want the federal government to default. And number 2 and number 3, that it's a small piece of legislation, just a few hundred pages. So in December 2020, there was a new CR deadline rolling up, and I said, I think I got the idea. Let me deliver the recording on air. So I prepared in my mind what I would say, what the creation would be, how I'd advocate it to you, and how I'd be ready for the criticism. And that's what happened in December 2020. I went on air. I said, hey, everybody, it's LA. And in December 2020, we're looking right now in just a few weeks out for a continuing resolution with inherent deadline. So I have an idea. That second stimulus package, which I've been covering on this channel for 11 months, is not going to the finish line yet. So why not keep our support for that second stimulus package, but also try to do something else? And the thing I've created overnight is called CR for stimulus. If you're in the live chat right now, write the hashtag campaign. If for other viewers who may have just joined this channel and have never heard about this before. My idea is to put a stimulus check in the continuing resolution, which has a December 2020 deadline. If we get it out the door, this continuing resolution, then your check goes out the door. It's as simple as that. Do you like the idea? Viewers love the idea. And we started to push. And as soon as we started to push, guess what happened? The criticisms came on in December 2020. And it's exactly what I anticipated. It don't belong in there, LA. This is a continuing resolution. A CR does not have checks for the American people. It has checks for the federal government. It's to fund the federal government, to run the national parks, to run the federal buildings. It's not to give money to the American people. It doesn't belong in there. I was ready for my response. You're right. It doesn't belong in there. That doesn't mean we can't do it. Since the beginning of time, Congress has passed resolutions or bodies of law where they had checks in there that didn't belong in there. During the pandemic, they were notorious for this. They had one body of legislation, COVID relief, that proposed to fund foreign military governments. Another COVID relief that proposed to build a new FBI building. Another COVID relief that proposed to expand the Department of Copyrights. It doesn't belong in there. We can put our money in there. It doesn't belong in there as well. And so we pushed and we advocated. And then one morning we woke up and we heard stimulus is in the continuing resolution. We thought we had won until we looked and we realized, they put unemployment stimulus in there. Not what we were asking for. Thank you, but not what we were asking for. So we pushed again. Criticism continued, and then we won. We woke up one morning. I made history. This channel made history. And the viewers of this channel, the Purple Power community, made history. Because a $600 stimulus check for the first time in U.S. history was inserted in continuing resolution. The first time anything for the American people to go out to you was put in the continuing resolution. Only my creation. And millions of Americans across the country got a $600 check in December 2020 because it was inserted in the continuing resolution, which became law. Guess what also happened? Second stimulus never went anywhere. Second stimulus fell apart. Never got a bill, never got a vote, never got a check. No one got any money. Thank goodness for this channel. Thank goodness for the Purple Power. CR for stimulus became a reality. So about 3 Saturdays ago, I went on air. I said, do you want to bring back CR for stimulus? And viewers said, oh, please do. Because it looks like the same situation. 11 months of negotiations, two people, Joe and Joe, no deal, a package, thousands of pages in length. Let's do something simple. Guess what we had? Late February, another continuing resolution. Let's get a check in there. Well, the breaking news is that, and you're hearing it for the first time on this channel, right in this recording, is that they've now identified during negotiations between House and Senate members on this continuing resolution of February 2022 that there would be included in their 1.5 trillion of, quote, and I'm quoting the word, discretionary spending, unquote, which is very loosey-goosey, meaning money can go a lot of different ways. This is huge. If you don't know how big 1.5 trillion is, it's huge, folks. I'll be covering it in the second half of this video. This is the breaking news you're hearing for the first time on this channel about CR for Stimulus 1.0. 2.0 is heating up still because guess what? It passed in the House. It has now been sent to the Senate. And the Senate has their version. They're going to merge it with 3.0, the Senate version. Then we'll be looking at 4.0, the Russia-Ukraine sanctions legislation. Guess what? I told you so. I told you Russia was going to be a big issue no less than 4 months ago on this channel. I was covering Russia, I think, in November. And then I told you last weekend that I don't believe that there's a ceasefire. I don't believe that Russia is retracting. I don't think that Russia is de-escalating. I think it's a fake game. Get ready and get that sanctions done. Well, guess what? Everyone is now saying it, get that sanctions bill out. Then, can you imagine that Liz Warren and Joe Biden ran on a campaign promise to raise your benefits up $200 for SS200. And that was 2 years ago. Joe Biden came into office and again wrote that he would deliver it, has not done it. We talked about fifth stimulus all last year, but for the first time on Afternoons LA, I'm going to show you. You could potentially get 11 to 12% raise up of your benefits lifetime. 12%, that's more than $200 a month, folks. It's huge. It's coming up in the second half of this video. Then we're going to meet two viewers who got to 20, 30, 40. One even got $80,000 this last week from third stimulus. My goodness, we got a big second half. I'm excited you're here. But first, here's a little bit about the community page. We got a big day, folks, and a lot of breaking news from CR to the Build Back Better Act, which we'll be going back into. We're looking at all those incredible checks and the third stimulus, the big money you can get right today. Stay with me. Stay to the very end. We got a great recording, and I'll see you back in 60 seconds. But first, here's a little bit about the community page. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now as we go into a big second half of Afternoons LA. As $1.5 trillion of congressional discretionary spending is now proposed to be allocated in the continuing resolution. My goodness, this is huge. We're going to go over that. The Senate changes on the CR. The Senate changes on CR for Stimulus 2 and 3.0. My goodness. And then we'll be cutting back to Build Back Better Act. And, of course, the two viewers, actually three viewers, who have gotten over $20,000 this week from third stimulus. I'm going to show you how to get those big sums of money, because this is what we do on this channel. Then, can you imagine that in now less than 2 years, you could see, in less, what am I saying, 2 years? In less than 2 months, you could potentially see your benefits heading 11% up lifetime? What's going on? It's SS200 on Fleek. It's SS200 on Red Bull. I have all the incredible great news of what's going on in the second half, and then the opportunity for the president to repurpose some sums of money. We got a lot coming up later in this video. If you haven't found this channel before and you just found it, welcome. I'm so excited for you, part of this family. It's a loving family, but it's a very informed family, and I want you to go on to this video right now and subscribe. You're watching the number 3 most watched financial news channel, America, LALATE, where viewers are getting big sums of money daily and killing it on the weekly. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Help this channel go from number 3 to number 2 in the United States among cable, print, broadcast, and internet. And also sign up for those LALATE alerts, a link to which is under the video's description. We got a new afternoons, a brand new evenings LA coming up later tonight. But first, let's turn into what's going on with Congress as Omicron is fading, thank goodness. What's going on right now with the CR for Stimulus situation? Well, let's start with CR for Stimulus 1.0. CR for Stimulus 1.0, very, very interesting. We're going to talk about the negotiations, then the logistics, and then we're also going to talk about where the numbers are before we go into CR for Stimulus 2, 3, and 4, because we got those coming up as well. So a lot of details across the board that I want to go over with you, but first I want to go over the situation of where CR for Stimulus 1.0 is right now. CR for Stimulus 1.0 still has that inherent deadline in just a few days now in the Senate. The Senate has a couple of options, and I saw some of the comments on Evenings LA yesterday where people saying the Senate was absolutely going to do a stopgap. Not guaranteed. In fact, the latest quotes out just minutes ago before I went on air at the time of this recording. We do not know if the Senate will do a stopgap. Even if they do, worst case scenario, a stopgap, it means 3 weeks out. Does not mean a long time out. Let's go over the equation. The equation is, when do they get this continuing resolution done? Did they get it done this month, next week, an extra few days? Let's go over what John Tester said. He's a Democrat from Montana, and he says if you get Chuck Schumer and you get Mitch McConnell and you get the key Senate Democrats, see Democrats and Republicans, of which there are 4, on point, they'll get it done this month. When we do continuing resolutions, which I want to make very clear, they sometimes go down the very last minutes. Don't think you can read an article out 9 days earlier and think, oh, that's what it's going to be. They sometimes get these done literally at the last second. So let me go over that first for you. Stopgap. What does stopgap mean? It means roll it over. Don't think stopgap means 3 months. At the moment, they're looking at a stopgap of 3 weeks, not 3 months. They can do a stopgap of a few days. They can do a stopgaps of a few moments. Tesla's comments is very clear. If we agree upon the price tag, then all we have to do is write the bill. So let's say agree upon the price tag, then they have to write the bill. It's 4 extra 5 days, according to Tester. So you don't need a stopgap for 3 weeks. You need a stopgap for 4 days. So that's where it's at. But I'm not going to focus on so much whether it's worst case scenario, 3 extra weeks, or right now. I'm going to focus on the exciting news. And this is where we as a family have to be laser focused. A new report out minutes ago says that the Democrats and the Republicans in the Congress, both House and Senate, are looking at $1.5 trillion of discretionary spending to go into the continuing resolution. Now, first I'm going to go over this terminology, discretionary spending, and then I'm going to go over what the value of $1.5 trillion is. They say that House and Senate negotiations on the spending deal would likely include $1.5 trillion of discretionary spending for an array of government programs. They're not even being specific about the program. So I want to make very clear to you. These are government programs. They're not pigeonholing themselves. So this is good. You don't want them to have it in a box. This is where we can get that stimulus check in there. Now, they do say it may include programs administered by EPA, State Department, other cabinet-level departments. I mean, do we want to be literal about this? One of the cabinet-level departments is Department of Treasury. Yeah, I mean, hey, there it is. But let's go over the price tag of $1.5 trillion. How big is $1.5 trillion, folks? It's a lot of money. I mean, if you were with me in all of 2020, when we saw the Nancy and Donald negotiations, Donald was having a big problem getting over 1.1 trillion. I think at one point, I think it got to 1.2. And most of the Republicans were down at like 800 billion. So to think that Republicans now are at $1.5 trillion is huge. Now, I'm not saying it's all for stimulus checks, but, you know, you don't need $1.5 trillion for one stimulus check. Now, remember, we always have said that the continuing resolution would not have $50,000 of stimulus checks in there for each person. And we also said it would not have, $10,000 of stimulus checks. That would come in Build Back Better Act. This is a check to get you money across the board. So what should you be doing? You should be advocating. And I love the viewership of the channel. They've been listening very clearly. Even sometimes I forget Leahy's name. I had to take off the graphic just then to remember. What's his name? Leahy. I just don't know why I have a problem remembering his name. Patrick Leahy and Chuck Schumer. You need to advocate on this issue. Why? Because Tesla says if you get Leahy and Schumer to agree upon the price tag, we're done this month. We don't need to stopgap. So what do you want to say? Pick up the phone and call Leahy and Schumer. Say, hey, don't do a stopgap. Get the continuing resolution done this month. 1, 2. Insert a stimulus check. You promised us a stimulus check since last year. Insert it in the Build Back Better Act. You've done it before under the 2020 December continuing resolution. You could do it again. And number three, you want our support as Democrats retain seats in the Senate. Well, we've had your back on the continuing resolution of the Build Back Better Act. You haven't gotten it done yet. You promised us MSCs in there. We're supporting you. We are continue to support you, and we will support you. But first, we need to be, compensated because we've been holding out and we're struggling here economically. We need that money. So get it in there across the board. That's your update on CR for Stimulus 1.0. Great news, 1.5 trillion. All right, let's go to CR for Stimulus 4.0. That's the last one. That is the Russian sanctions bill. I'm laughing. Vladimir Putin is as predictable as a bad Real Housewives episode. He's just so predictable as a guy. I told you that he was going to try to invade Ukraine back in November. And I told you it was going to be the biggest single event impacting Wall Street, your money, inflation, the pump, and gasoline in November. Here we are. We're heading into late February. It's still the situation. I told you last weekend that I did not believe he was de-escalating. What does de-escalating mean? It means withdrawing troops from the border. He's not. NATO said he wasn't, and guess what? The new report says also he's not doing it. So that's why the CR for Stimulus 4.0 is so much needed, and it needs to get done right away. A new quote that came out from Lindsey Graham on Sunday. Lindsey Graham, the voice of reason, never, well, at least today is, says we need to do this, get this done. And I can't believe that it's such wonderful bipartisanship when it comes to hatred of Vladimir Putin. It's just, there you go. Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, Republican out of New York, and then Bob Menendez and all the Democrats saying, you know what, gotta get it done. They want to sanction Vladimir Putin for everything that he's putting everyone through, get that sanctions done now before he invades. Well, I mean, they were supposed to have this done 2 weeks ago, folks. I don't know what's going on. Chuck was supposed to have this on the short list before this weekend. But we still got time. We still got time. And then get it done and out the door. So that's CR for Stimulus 4.0. Small piece of legislation, bipartisan support, inherent deadline, and it's not really economic recovery. But again, it doesn't matter what the legislation is called. They can insert a check in there across the board. I like this one the least of all of them because it's a sanctions bill. It seems like a conflicting mix, but I like 1 and 2 and 3, which I'm going to right now. 2 and 3 heated up 1 week after I delivered CR for Stimulus 1.0 back on this channel. 3 Saturdays ago, I said, "Do you want CR for Stimulus back on?" And viewers said yes. And within 1 week of me advocating for insertion of a stimulus check in the continuing resolution that has a February 2020 deadline, then immediately the House Democrats, led by Pete Aguilar out of California, said, you know what, we like Build Back Better, but we need other pieces of legislation, economic recovery to go out now, and we need it done quickly. And within 24 hours, one was passed. Passed out of the House. Like that. Sent to the Senate. We called CR for Stimulus 1.0. The senators led by Republicans, you heard me right, Republicans, Todd Young, said, we got our version getting done as well. We look to merge 2 and 3.0. He doesn't use the numbers 2 and 3.0. I'm using that numbering system so you follow which one I'm referring to. We're going to merge them together quickly and out the door. What is going on here? When did Republicans and Democrats agree upon so many things in one week? What's going on is called Seats for Stimulus 2022 version. There's a new element of bipartisan erupting everywhere, and it's not out of ironicness. It's because Republicans and Democrats understand the way to win the midterm elections or retain their seats is by passing economic reform, not just complaining about it. And it needs to be economic reform. Sorry, Bernie. Build Back Better Act has economic reform, your money, and also social reform, Bernie type things, dental, vision, hearing, Medicare, Medicaid. Yeah, that is not what's going to win the midterm elections. Economic reform is what's going to win the midterm elections. And that is what's at issue when we go into what's happening with SS 200. I'm going to get to that in a second. I have brand new details that came in just minutes ago about what's going on with this economy and why this money is needed so differently. But I want to deliver you first an overview of where I'm going. This is what's interesting. When we first started recording second stimulus videos on this channel, we were talking about need second stimulus because of COVID. I mean, that's why we made the recordings. You're on lockdown. You're on partial lockdown. You need second stimulus, third stimulus. We're coming out of lockdown. We need it. Guess what's going on right now? Not a lockdown, clearly out of lockdown, and mask mandates are being lifted, but there's a problem. There's a supply chain problem. There's a very bad inflationary problem. There's a price escalation problem. There's a gasoline problem. There's a lot of economic problems. And guess what? These are economic problems that every Republican and Democrat can look at and say, it's happening. Unlike 2020, when we often had Mitch saying, I'm not sure that there's economic problems. Remember how many times he said that? This time, Republicans and Democrats are agreeing there are economic problems. And they're both agreeing on how to do it. There was actually a new report that came out yesterday. I didn't have time to deliver it on camera, but it's a strange report that says Democrats are proposing to do certain tax cuts like Republicans because they think that's the only way to get their base excited on the Senate side. So suddenly the two policies are merging and getting very similar, Republicans and Democrats, because they agree that there's economic problems. They agree they need your vote, and they agree they need to solve these economic problems. And there's not a lot of solutions to the problems that are very different. They're very similar. And that is where we are right now. Well, guess what? Joseph Biden has a very simple gimme, Gimmee, EEE, and that gimme is SSI and SSDI reform. And there's sometimes where I sort of think to myself, this is crazy. This is one of those crazy moments. I don't know what he's doing. Let's go back over what's going on. In January 2020, Liz Warren and other Democrats were running for the highest office in the land, the presidency. And Liz Warren's proposal at the time was SSI reform, including both the removal of the marriage penalty, requires an act of Congress, the removal of the asset cap requires an act of Congress, removing the income cap requires an act of Congress, and moving the benchmark from COLA to inflation does not need an act of Congress, and raising your benefits up with an addition of SS200, an extra $200 a month on top of that, 6 to 12 months. She eventually pulled out of her campaign for president, and then Joe Biden said, you know what, I like Liz's policies, I'm going to adopt them for my run for presidency. He did. And then he won the election. Then as president-elect, he put on paper on joebiden.com, it's still there, you can read it yourself, that he will be giving $200 additional per month for people on benefits because you're in time of need. Well, guess what? Your time of need is more need right today. And guess what's going on? Well, I'm going to show you in this recording right today for the very first time how you can get SS200, not 6 months, not 12 months, not lifetime, as I told you the day before, but perhaps SS400 lifetime. What's going on here? And why does it take a kid in Los Angeles with a purple shirt to tell the president of the United States this obvious stuff? I don't know. I just got to say his economic advisors just are no good. I got to tell you, let's go over what's going on. Currently, our benchmarks are tied to something called COLA, C-O-L-A, cost of living adjustment. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked for decades. If you looked at a check for benefits that you get in the mail from 2020 to 2021, same check. How about 2010 to 2011, same check. Didn't really go up. That's because COLA doesn't move. It only moved 5.9% last December, folks, because inflation was out of control. Well, inflation always goes up. What year has inflation been zero? Never. What year has inflation been less than 2%? Never. So it always goes up 2% every year. Well, first of all, let's do simple math, folks. If inflation goes up an average of 2% every year, then over 10 years, your benefits would go up, 2%, another 2%, another 2%, 2%. Yeah, they're going up 2% every year because once your benefits go up, they never go down. I mean, let's give you a very sample. Let's say your benefits go up 2% this year, and then next year it's another 2% inflation. It would be 2% on top of the 2%. Yeah, that's how it works. So I told you that if they replace COLA with inflation, then inflation would be a higher number. And I told you this all last year. Now, here we go. Here comes the economic data, breaking news, and we're looking backwards as well. In spring last year, when I was talking about what Joe Biden didn't do with SS reform, I said the Democrats are looking to do it with fifth stimulus and replacing COLA with inflation. In spring of last year, I said inflation was going to be 7.5% in December 2021 and not be temporary. Everyone thought I was crazy. That channel is crazy. What is this kid saying, 7.5% inflation in December 2021? Federal Reserve said 1 to 2% and temporary or transitory. Their fancy word, fancy word now means wrong. Then Wall Street is saying 2 to 3%, temporary, transitory. Wrong. I said it's going to be 8%, and I said it was not going to go down. It was not going to be temporary. Well, it came in at 7.5% last month. And guess what? When I reported that to you at the time, I said, guess what? The January number, which is going to be reported in February, is not going to go down. It's going to go even higher. Now you're going to see me again come in with correct news and outperforming or disproving what Wall Street's saying. Well, that came in last Friday. The producer price index, which governs wholesale prices, which is not just inflation, but is a real key of inflation, came in at 9.7%. Oh, breathe. 9.7%. Your cost of goods went up 9.7%. That's year to date. Yeah. So this is really getting extenuated. Now, here is what's going on. A series of other reports now signal, and I'm going to go over each of those in a second, that inflation in December of this year will be about somewhere in the 4% range, 4.2%, 4.5%. Okay, folks, you can do the math. This is easy. If you switched out COLA for inflation today, suddenly your benefits would go up 7.5% at least, based upon where they were in December 2021. Well, guess what? If I'm right with the additional 4% going up this December, you go up another 4% on top of that. Yeah, you're seeing a very big, stark increase. What's going on? Well, a series of new reports says that inflation is really, really hot. And reports that came out just minutes ago before I went on camera says we've seen inflation now spreading. We're seeing salary inflation. We're seeing rental inflation. Viewers are talking about rental inflation all the time. Your rent's gone up a lot. People are talking about their rent going up 200, 300%. We're seeing cost of goods inflation, of course. And of course, we see the gasoline inflation, which is what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. Supply chain analysts, actually supply chain shippers that put the stuff in the barges across the seas, across the land, they say that the supply chain problems we're dealing with right now are not going to ease until the end of this year. So all that means lots of inflation for lots of months. So what does Joe Biden do to get you this money? The way he does this is a simple phone call. You went through all that, LA, just to say that he just needs to make a phone call? Yeah, it's sort of crazy. This is why I'm saying it's crazy. All that, 2 minutes of recording, I said, and I'm going to say, hey, make a phone call, and we're done. Is it that simple? It is that simple. Joseph Biden put in the Social Security Administration head last year, commissioner, whatever you want to call him or her, when he didn't like Commissioner Saul. Remember that guy that was not sending out your check on time if you're on the Direct Express card? Remember all those Direct Express card videos? Yeah, you weren't getting your check on time. That was Commissioner Saul, fired by Joe Biden. Well, Joe Biden put in a replacement. Joe Biden, all he has to do is pick up the phone and call the new commissioner of Social Security, say, you know what? Replace COLA with inflation. 30 days out. Thank you. Have a good day. Now, they don't have to follow his advice. The Social Security Administration, the way it's established, is they do things themselves. They do not need an act of Congress to tie their shoelace or to pour themselves a cup of coffee. But considering the president gave that guy a job or her a job, it's a very persuasive conversation on the phone. And we're done. Suddenly, 30 days out from there, you get in the live chat and say, LA, I got a couple $100 more per month because the president made the friggin' phone call. Why didn't he make this phone call day one? It's so simple. It really is so simple. The president also has the big opportunity to repurpose existing sums of money. This is money from any of these COVID relief bills, 1, 2, 3, that's still sitting around. The president can repurpose that money. Joe, repurpose the money. When government establishes programs under agencies, especially for COVID relief, those programs run for certain numbers of months, and sometimes the money is still there when the programs are over. He can repurpose the money. I'm going to feature more about that tonight on Evenings LALATE. And it's as simple as, again, picking up the phone and calling them up and saying, repurpose the money. I need your help on this one, though. If you can find government programs, especially established in the last year, that have now ended and the money is still there, in a news report, send it to me and I will advocate for it. This happened several times under the Trump administration. It's very easy breezy. But I want to go right into Build Back Better Act with those incredible checks. And I have a lot of checks to get you. It's third stimulus and viewers are cleaning up. So let's go into Build Back Better Act, which is going to become a law. Joe Biden and his spokesperson, Andrew Bates, says, that I don't know if it's Yates or Bates. I'm sorry if it's Yates and I'm calling it Bates. You know, do they take stimulus checks at the Yates Motel? They do. As someone said, Allied, if you run for president, what's Sir Loin going to do? I said, he's going to eat the lawn. What do you think he's going to do? Let's go to the provisions in the First Amendment. I mean, is that a no-brainer? Yeah. He's like, oh, you're going to the White House? He's going to look. He's going to Google the White House lawn and look at the pictures. Like, oh, delicious. I'm getting on the next plane I'm going to roam over there as quickly as possible because that looks like a really good lawn to eat. Let's look at the provisions that are in that First Amendment recon, and there is a lot of checks. Remember, these are checks that Joe Biden wants to go out. He wants them to go out right away. They're automatic checks, many of them. And they're adult checks. The only checks that are not adults is when I say they're not adults, which are for people who act like children and wear lobster shorts. Here we go. We got the tax rate checks, SALT cap, raise of $10,000 to $72,500 of what you can deduct in state and local taxes. Then they got cheaper prescription medication, growing from 20 medications to 30 medications in year 2028. They got $40 billion of free job training to train millions of people who want a higher paying job or a job that has a nicer lawn in the front yard to eat. They got in there the housing, which we'll cut back in a second. They got in there a lot of provisions which were repeated from third stimulus. So they got in there the CTC, that's a child's check, $3,600 approximately per year if you're a low-income family. They got the hazard pay, that's adults checks. The earned income tax credit, LERBAD, IRS, .gov. They got in the household credit, but they also got in there the third stimulus. And the great news is if you've just found this channel, and boy, thank you for all the grand new subscribers in the last few days or members. Third stimulus is still paying out, and who would have thought? Third stimulus involves that rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, and more. And it's in for stimulus, but no time or place to wait for it because it's still paying out. So get your pen and paper ready right now and get that newsletter in front of you because we're going to go over these big sums of money that are still paying out. And we're going to look at some success stories that are happening. It's huge. It's just so incredible. And we're going to look at the rent. Here we go. This is the rent that people were getting back in October. Now they're getting upwards of $40,000. You're going to get this rent from 6 places. You ready? City Hall, City Housing Authority. County Hall, County Housing Authority. State Hall and State Housing Authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. 3, you must reach out to all 6 places. Number 2, you must reach out to, you must get application file everywhere. And number 3, you must do multiple rounds. Now, I've made that statement on this channel, I think every single day for maybe 365 recordings, maybe, 600 recordings. And needless to say, there's still some people that would say something like, there's nothing in the city of Scranton, Ohio. Did I not just say city, county, and state? So listen very carefully what I'm saying. That's why people win when they listen. Make sure you listen really carefully. Next, you see Niecy's name. I don't think you can. It's under the word Afternoons LA. It's a graphic under there. So she got $20,000 of rent. Then, guess what? She's among the viewers who got another round of money. And let's go over Niecy's latest success story. This came in this week. Hey, LA, I got another $7,000 for rent and $3,000 for utilities. I told you I'd update you. Wow. So she got another $10,000 this week. Then Karen says, I got another $22,579 for rent, plus $12,500 for SNAP, plus $3,000 for utilities. I'm so blessed. Wow. And then another viewer who is actually a volunteer, I'm about to look at her number, and I think it said 80,000. It was just huge. I had to go through it before I go give you the breakdown. But boy, people are getting the sums of money right now. I'm going to go over the rounds of it in just a second, but first let's turn to utilities. Get it from utility assistance because of COVID. Here's Mark. He was at $6,500. Well, guess what? His brother-in-law's getting $15,000. SNAP, get it from Department of Agriculture. And boy, is it a lot. $25,000 Mark's brother-in-law is getting per year over 10 years, $250,000. Do you know of any financial news channel that is getting people $250,000 a lifetime? I mean, it's mind-blowing. $250,000, every 10 years. Well, $25,000 every year, I guess is another way to say it. That's what we do as a family here. Then get combo items. Here's Niecy. Look how Niecy helps so many people. Niecy got 3 items, and Art Sullivan got 3 items. I haven't seen Art in a while. If he's in the live chat, say hello, Art. So they were one of the first viewers to get 3 items or more. They inspired so many people to understand, don't just get 1 item, get 3. Mark, he had 2 items at 32,000. I said, Mark, where's your third? Get your third like Nisi. He got his third, brought him to 50,000. Now he's at over 100,000. Lorraine, she was at 105. Now she's at 120. Wow. Just incredible news across the board. Meantime, what a week it has been. CR for signals 1, 2, 3, 4. Very, very fluid situation. Here's some things I want you to know about each of them. One, in regards to the continuing resolution of the budget bill, those things go down to the wire. So do not predict it out weeks in advance. Do not hear something about a stopgap and then worry about it. Even at this current equation, stopgap is 3 weeks. But I need you to advocate. 1.5 trillion. This is huge, great news, folks. 1.5 trillion. I had to look at it 3 times. Not billion, trillion of discretionary spending. Folks, that's enough for a stimulus check. That's enough for a stimulus check. Number 2, the CR for stimulus 4.0, the Russian sanction situation, very, very fluid across the board. Finally, I want to go over this seats for stimulus situation because it's getting very surprising. No one would have thought it would have looked like this, a year ago. But a year ago, we would have those Republicans saying, everyone's doing really well. You don't need help. The economy is great. Everyone's doing really well. And that equation was for Democrats not to give you money. Now, ironically, you can't say that as a Republican. Now, as a Republican, if you want to run and win against a Democrat, you want to say the economy is hurting people. They need assistance. So as a voter, you're going to say, okay, what are you doing for me? I haven't done anything. What are you going to do? Just elect me in? No, I'm not going to buy it. You have to tell me what you've done to give me money. And so suddenly Republicans are having to act a little bit more like Democrats. And Democrats are starting to have to act a little bit like Republicans. There's a lot of talk about Democrats trying to do tax cuts because people should not be taxed so much if the economy is not doing well. People have asked me if I am going to run for president, and my health is still my top priority. It's still a fluid situation, and I need to deal with my health before I address that type of question. But I appreciate everyone's comments saying, LA, run for president, run for president. I think that the reason people are asking me is because people aren't stupid anymore. The SS200 is a typical example. Why have these people run for office and run on a platform that they're going to give you $200, write it, say it, write it, say it, win, put in your transmission papers, say it's an urgent situation, write it, post it to a website. The website's still live, and no one's gotten it, and then we act like it was never said. And people are seeing this as sort of a reoccurring situation. The people just run for higher office just to say things and get elected, and then they're in there, and then they just, did you remember you said that? And in the case of SS200, there hasn't been an effort to do it. It's not like they tried and they had problems. In the case of the Build Back Better Act, they've tried really hard for you. So let's understand. There are some people who are trying really hard to get you money. And then there's some programs that were supposed to be done that have literally not heard a whisper. Liz Warren has that offer, $10,000 for student loan debt forgiveness from the president, and Chuck Schumer. Why not take it? What's the problem? Take it. It's $10,000. These things people don't understand them. I don't understand them. It doesn't make any sense across the board. Meantime, one thing I want to go over was the latest economic news that came in minutes ago. And guess what? It's still more troubling. Interest rate spikes. Last year, we were talking about maybe one interest rate spike by the end of this 2022. By earlier this year, I told you that there was chatter of maybe, in January of this year, I told you there was chatter of 5 interest rate spikes, maybe 7 interest rate spikes. Now, in less than 30 days, we have now gone from maybe 5 and potentially 7 to now likely 5 and maybe 7. 7 means a spike every time that there is a meeting of the Federal Reserve this year. Boy, 7 interest rate spikes, folks, and inflation, and price escalation, and problems with Ukraine is a lot to digest at the same time. And if you don't have your thumb on the equation as the policy makers to make sure you get a ride, this could be interesting. And guess what? I'm going to go over it more tonight on Evenings LA. But first, I want you to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. We got shows tonight on Evenings LA at 5 o'clock. Don't miss it. Brand new show. Then, Evenings Countdown at 6 o'clock. Then, Home Street and Stimulus at 7 o'clock, Evenings Extra at 8 o'clock. We got our overnight shows at 9, 10, 11:30, and then we're back at sunrise at 3 and 3:30 before we go into early morning to LA at 4. Stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful day. Hope the weather is good where you are. Keep on advocating. Advocate to Leahy and Schumer especially. Get that $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds repurposed to you. Not even repurposed, that's actually the wrong verb. Sent out in part to you. Doesn't have to be all, but just some of it. And stay with Ally for more.